Hello, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you tonight or this afternoon for some of you, possibly. Have everybody filing in, so we'll give it a few minutes. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. We have a great content plan for you guys tonight. You're going to love it. So I'm so excited to get into it and show you what we have prepared for you. My name is Tamara Candeloro. I'll be your host tonight. Um, we are looking forward to for you guys to engage with us. So by all means, we have the Q&A chat open. You're also have where we would love for you to upvote. Oh, and you guys already have the reactions coming. I was going to say that too. So the Q&A box and the reactions, we want to hear from you. We love hearing that. It's great encouragement. So thank you so much. Lots of thumbs up. And I love the party streamers. That's my favorite emoticon. If any of you see me on social, you probably know. All right. So today we are going to be discussing a very important topic, the importance of being and how to be prepared before, attentive during, and reliable after a proceeding. Okay. And this webinar is approved for AAERT CEU credits. All right. So in order to be eligible for that credit, you guys, you must stay for the full hour tonight. Okay. And then the second step, we need you to complete the survey that we will send out to you tomorrow afternoon. All right, so we'll give everyone just a little bit shy of a week to complete that survey. So you'll have until Wednesday, 12/20 to return your survey to us, okay? And then we'll send all the certificates out on Thursday, 12/21. All right? So I want to start too by saying, I want to say a quick congratulations to Kate Kavostova. She was the winner of our BlueLedge After Hours game for our last webinar that we had, you guys. So give her a little round of applause. And we will be having another round of that after the conclusion tonight. And the winner will receive a $25 Amazon gift card. It was so much fun, you guys. It was a blast. It was just 5 or 10 minutes after, but it was really great to kind of connect and get to know the community and have some fun. So we definitely encourage you to stay if you can. However, definitely know that this portion is not required for CEU credit. So if you have to leave or want to leave right after the hour's up, by all means, feel free. You'll be fine. No worries there. All right. So let's get to the fun part and meet our panelists. What do you guys say? All right. Let's start with Miss Jessica Allen. How about you? Will you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. And good evening, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Jessica Allen. I am an AAERT certified digital court reporter, and actually excited also to be getting involved with AAERT because recently joined their membership committee as well. I have been a digital court reporter now for about 6 years. And I am currently as a state digital court reporter now with the Ninth Judicial Circuit Court of Florida in Orlando. I have also graduated from Steno School. So not to date myself, I graduated 10 years ago from Steno School. And my responsibilities now for the state as a court reporter is to preserve the record and cover proceedings that include felony dockets, misdemeanors, juvenile, and also I cover county criminal courts. So in addition to that, I'm also an in-house legal transcriptionist now with the state. So
It was a lot. Great experience. We're so glad to have you join us. Thank you. Awesome. All right. How about this, Jenna? You want to go next for us?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me this evening. Hello,
Yes.
everyone. My name is Jenna DeRazio. I am a certified electronic reporter. I am a digital reporter and transcriptionist from U.S. Legal Support, and I'm an adjunct professor of psychology for Waynesburg University.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. And we're going to be leaning in on your expertise in the mental health and counseling field. So we're very excited about that part of your experience tonight, too. So thank you. How about you, Miss Lisa? Will you go next for us?
Sure. Hi, and thanks for having me tonight. Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Luciano. I am a partner co-owner of Access Transcripts. I started my transcription career in 2001, and I obtained my certifications, my CET and my New Jersey certification in 2005. So I've been doing this for a minute or two. Access Transcripts does court hearings and judicial matters in 30 or 40 different jurisdictions across the country, from U.S. Bankruptcy Court to Indiana State Appellate work. And yeah, that's us doing the court transcripts.
Lovely. Awesome. Thank you. We're definitely looking forward to all your tidbits you have for us tonight. You have some good ones. I know. And Miss Merritt, I always make you go first. So this time I gave you a break. Will you go not next for us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for our panelists. I am really excited about our panelists tonight and what we're going to be covering. My name is Merritt Gilbert. I am the director of BlueLedge, the lead instructor for BlueLedge. I started working as a digital reporter about 12 years ago, became certified, and then I created and managed the digital court reporting department at a medium to large sized agency, overseeing the digital reporters, legal transcriptionists, and kind of the workflow of everything in the department operationally. And I am currently on the board for AAERT, as well as I'm the certification chair. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And love all the reactions, everybody, and all the support and hearts and love for our panelists. So thank you so much for showing that support, you guys. Oh, that's cute, you guys. All right. Well, now let's get to know our community together. What do you guys say about that? So we'll throw our first poll out there tonight. Okay, you guys, here's what we want to know. So what do you love most about your career in this industry? So is it the first one, the flexibility? Is it B, being a part of the justice system? C, learning new things every day? Or D, the pride that you feel from mastering an important craft? Of course, it might be more than one. We totally get that, but you got to pick your favorite. Yeah,
Where's the all of the above?
I know that's cheating. You can't do that on this. All right, so let's go ahead. I think you guys would have had time to do it. Let's see what you got. What do we have? Okay. Oh, okay. Pretty evenly down. The flexibility did win out. I can totally understand that. That was one of the things that first drew me into this field as well. So totally get it. But very close tie between the other three. We have a lot of great things about this career, so I totally can understand how it would be a split split piece. All right. Well, very good. Thank you guys for sharing that. Now we'll go ahead and we'll start to get into some of our topics we were going to do. The first thing we're going to start is everything pre-job. So before you're getting started on the proceeding, how can you set up to be successful? All right. And being successful on a job almost always means good communication, right? And understanding the overall flow of our roles all together, realizing how you might be an impact on that process. So Merritt, I was wondering if before we get started on the individual contributions and pieces, can you briefly walk us through the general life cycle of a proceeding when working with an agency, just so we can kind of see the full picture of how all this is connected?
Absolutely. So what would happen first is the lawyer's paralegal or lawyer's legal assistant would call or email the court reporting agency to schedule the job. And then the reporter shows up for the job takes place. Let's say the lawyers ordered the transcript. If the reporter transcribes their work themselves, they can begin transcribing and then submit the assignment once the transcript is complete. But if the reporter doesn't transcribe, they would submit their audio and all job information, including exhibits, to the agency after the job takes place, usually within a few hours. The office will then assign that to the transcriptionist, who will then complete the transcript, send it back to the office. The office then will usually do a quick quality control on the transcript, will PDF it and add the electronic signatures to the certificate pages and send the transcript to the ordering parties. So it kind of goes through the agency a few times there, as you can see.
Okay, good, perfect. And I love that. And that's part of why the communication is so key too, right? There's a lot of different players trying to connect everything together so the client has what they need right at the end. Okay, so now we're going to jump into some details. And we all know there are so many details to consider on every job. And really, there's no way that we could talk about them all individually here in an hour. So we are going to send a checklist out to everyone actually after the webinar. We'll send it along with your survey. But for now, we're just going to talk about some of the most important details to bring to the table for discussion, okay? So we're going to start with the preparation process. Okay, and Jenna, I'm going to throw this one to you. As an agency reporter, what is your favorite tip to suggest for being prepared before covering a proceeding?
And honestly, this is such a great question because there's so many things that we can do to prepare ourselves. But my favorite tip is to check the docket if there is one available to you in a public forum. An effective way to have more peace and ease into our fast-paced profession is to prepare and familiarize ourselves with the cases ahead of time by checking the complaint, the parties involved, the notice, that can give us a glimpse inside the complexities of this case. It's also
Mm.
a great place to find all of our verified spellings.
Very true. I love that point. I used to love when I found something like that, or if they ever give exhibits in advance, like forget it, that was the best. You already had terms. Great, great tips. Thank you so much for that, Jenna. Jessica, how about you working in a courthouse? It definitely has its own unique situations. So what would you say is your favorite tip to suggest for being prepared before covering a proceeding?
Well, what I would say, number one tip as a state digital court reporter is to constantly verify your audio for the designated courtrooms that you are assigned. So that means as soon as we go in the morning, check that specific audio, not only for our primary audio, but we also have backup audio. So constantly throughout the day, be checking audio. But in addition to that, sometimes we're scheduled with courtrooms that may not have a specific docket for that day. It doesn't mean you ignore those courtrooms. You still have to monitor that courtroom because judges sometimes do bounce around from courtrooms to courtrooms. And surprise, if you're not checking that audio and you're caught off guard, that could just be very bad. So my number one tip is consistently checking your audio, knowing your software equipment so that you're prepared for whatever situation comes your way.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, those judges keeping you on your toes, I'm sure, right? All right. How about you, Lisa? As a transcriptionist, what's your favorite tip to suggest for being prepared before starting a transcript? Uh,
Me.
Sorry, I was muted somehow. Anyway, my best tip is first and foremost, know your audio players. Be familiar with your players because when you get an order in, we work with various courtrooms, and one might be FTR, one might be Liberty. What we have a lot of different file formats that could come in. So know how to operate your audio players. And once you receive everything, download it, double check that you've got the audio, that the file's not corrupted, you've got all of your paperwork, because if you don't, you need to reach out to the court reporter and get them, and then you're ready to go.
Perfect. And then if you don't, you're running into your own time to transcribe, right? Like that's never fun. Start cutting into that precious time.
Oh
What
yeah,
about
you can't. And if you don't check when you get the assignment, if you're one of those transcribers who likes to work at 11:30 at night, if you have an issue,
right?
you fix it then.
And from like the agency perspective, when I assign out to transcriptionists in the job, let's say it was due tomorrow and they've had it for, maybe a week and they're asking for the paperwork the day before, you're like, oh, he's just starting on this. Like,
Oh,
so it's better to ask as soon as you get the job instead of even when you get started, ideally.
that's a good point. Definitely. Um, Lisa, is there a best way, like to gauge your time to complete a transcript before you accept, like, or commit to doing the assignment?
Basic rule of thumb is a seasoned transcriptionist would take about 4 hours to produce 1 hour's worth of audio. So that's how you can kind of gauge if it's a 4-hour hearing and they want it tomorrow, you're going to need 16 to 20 hours, probably work hours of coverage to get that done.
Yeah. I wasn't laughing at you. I saw the cute little like shocked face that went up on the screen. Someone's like, what?
But
Like,
that's a seasoned transcriptionist. So anyone who's
yeah,
just starting out, don't expect to go that quickly. It can take as many as 6 hours to do 1 hour of audio, but you will learn tips and tricks along the way to improve your speed so that you can get up to that 4 hours or sometimes even faster.
yeah, great tips. Thank you so much. All right. How about let's talk about audio a little bit. So, Merritt, what are some tips for getting perfect audio when working outside of the courtroom, for example?
Well, with audio, the first thing I want to say, of course, is always test. Don't just skip testing today because, every time I've tested it works, because that will be the day that something is not working. And then confidence monitoring. So I can't not say that. But in addition to testing and confidence monitoring, I would also recommend having each speaker have their own channel of audio, and ideally, of course, it's not always possible. And I think high quality microphones play a huge part in audio quality as well.
Yeah, definitely smart to pay attention to your investment on those, right? When you're getting there. We actually have a scenario question along this line too that a registrant submitted as a question they'd like for us to cover. So I'm going to give this one to you too, Merritt. How do you handle the microphones for this scenario? Okay, so you have an in-person arbitration with 3 arbitrators, 3 counsel on each side of the room, plus the witness.
So first thing is, especially if I knew it was going to be a little bit more out of the ordinary type of job, I would bring as much equipment as I had, all the cables, the different types of microphones, extension cords, everything, so that no matter, especially with an arbitration, you don't know what type of room you're going to be in necessarily. So it could be that a plug is really far away from where you're going to be sitting. And so, or it could be a really long table. You need your long cables. And in addition to being prepared, I would again ideally try to have each of them have their own channel, especially the arbitrators and the lawyers and the witness chair. So there might be other people present, like corporate representatives and things, and they may not be talking as much. So if you have to pick who's going to have like an isolated channel or a designated microphone, I would pick the arbitrators, the lawyers, and the witness chair. You might have
Perfect.
multiple witnesses, and the chair usually would stay the same.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you for that tip. I just saw a question. I was trying to think about kind of fitting it in here a little bit. Looking for some tips for remote only on the reporter side. So I'm trying to think of some things, even just for getting perfect audio on remote, certainly can be challenging too, because you cannot always control. It's not like we're setting up our mics and testing them, but there are tips, right? I mean, we can switch them over to the phone depending on how if it's the witness, how the attorney, handles different things like that. Sometimes they can have 2 separate connections, right? Does anybody have anything in mind in particular that has worked for you on remote depositions with audio?
That same specific scenario just happened to me yesterday. As I was asking the witness to say and spell their name, they kept breaking up. And mind you, those are the first things that I ask. So I knew the audio was not going to be good for the whole transcript. And I spoke up. I said, we need to make sure you're on camera. Why don't we go off the record for a moment? We'll switch the audio and you can join from your phone while you also keep your beautiful smiling face on the camera screen. It worked perfectly. The audio came in clear and the crisis was averted. So that transcript could be transcribed perfectly.
Love that. And that's a good tip too. Like go off the record if you're already there, right? So you have time to kind of think through it coolly and work through different scenarios. And I've been surprised too, like people using their laptops. If they're using the laptop mic, don't you find so many times like the mics are in the weirdest spots on laptops? So I've had several where I couldn't hear them because the laptop had the mics on the bottom and they would just need to kind of like elevate their laptop. So sometimes you just kind of have to be creative, make sure you're asking what devices they're using and troubleshoot. And I feel like everybody's so good about working together on that, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep sprinkling it in. We'll definitely have more Angie going through on the remote session parts too. Okay, so Jenna, I'm gonna have you put on your certified counselor hat now for us, okay? Are there some general skills and techniques that you could highlight for our audience to tap into in advance on how to prepare for challenges?
Absolutely. So preparation is key. That's what this whole entire talk is about. And no matter how much we think we may know about a case, we must always plan for the unexpected. I know we may talk about additional speakers, how to prepare for things such as power outages. Who do you contact? How do you get in contact with the client and the witness if your Zoom goes down? How do you call in and let them know, hey, I'm not here, halt the proceedings, we need to stop. Um, Good tips to have are having those key numbers to call if you work for a company. Maybe have your manager's number and leaders' numbers right and in your teams on your other screen if you have a dual screen. If you're a notary, have a list of the acceptable forms of ID. Have your swear-in statement ready. Know who to contact in the event of emergencies or equipment failure. And I always, always, always keep a notepad right next to me to keep track of what exhibits I'm on, how many speakers, their designations. So if I'm busy typing and my equipment and my audio is all the way down at the bottom, I can simply look at my notepad and when an attorney asks, Madam Court Reporter, I can't remember what exhibit am I on? And I'll say, you have already marked 2, now we're on 3.
Love that. Yeah, because when you have it right in front of your face, because when you're nervous or something's happening on the fly, your brain's not always like firing quite like it would normal, right? I mean,
Right. We get tunnel vision, and I'm definitely going to speak more on the trusting yourself side and how to be prepared and how we can also gain confidence, because confidence is a skill that we can work on.
good to know. Right? In various situations. That's great. All right, so let's skip over now. We're going to kind of talk a little bit more now during the job. We're right in the heat of it. And again, there's so much to cover with this. So we're going to just kind of go through some of the top favorites of our panelists, okay? So Jessica, I'm going to start with you on this one. If you had to pick a few priorities, what would you list for the courthouse reporters and transcriptionists to consider during the proceeding?
So for us, as far as priorities, because we are managing multiple courtrooms remotely within the courthouse, it is important to know exactly what proceedings you're covering. And for us, the order of priority goes, number 1 is trials, number 2 is motions, and 3 is hearings. So you really need to understand your proceedings so you know the flow of which courtroom to prioritize. In addition to that, for us, our annotations are a priority because of the cohesive style that they need to be written in. So as soon as we know the order of importance based on what I just said, then your annotations have to flow in that order. So you have to include everything of importance, such as the case number. Who are the state attorneys, the public defenders? What kind of motion is it? Who are the witnesses that are present to give testimony? And the reason that it's important as far as the cohesiveness of those annotations is to be considerate of the parties that are right behind you, such as our in-house transcriptionists. Those key highlights that are important for them to also grab so that your notes and your annotations are easy for them to read. But in addition to that, also our judges have access to our annotations. And at any time, they might pull up a specific proceeding that they were covering, and those are our annotations. And that's why it's so important to grab those key highlights, because it makes it easy, not only for them, but also for anyone that's ordering a CD of the audio proceedings. Number 3, I would say, as far as priorities, is for us keeping the lines of communications open with our clerks, because they are our best friends, and anything that we may need, they provide for us as far as spellings or anything within the proceedings.
Got a lot of good reactions out of that one. People definitely agreeing with that part of it for sure. All right, awesome. How about you, Merritt? What would you give as some of maybe your favorite key details to be prioritized for like a deposition then per se?
So I would say, in addition to being on time and submitting assignments, transcripts timely. It's hard to pick three, so I'm
I
just
know.
gonna be a couple here because I can't not say being on time. That not on time, the job can't, it's just anyway. So clear audio. I also can't not say that. Just number one. And then I'd say the two top things that I would get a lot of questions on from our transcription as like things being wrong from the digital reporter would be missing proper nouns and exhibit confusion. So do your best to provide every proper noun said on the record by asking, by researching, providing. And if you can't find something or you've asked and all this, just be very clear in your notes to the transcriptionist that you asked or you researched, you couldn't figure it out, and they can do their little bit of research and then they know, okay, phonetic would be acceptable here, because you really don't want to use the phonetic if you can help it. And then as far as annotations, I'd say, yes, like consistency, but speaker designations are really important when it would be confusing to the transcriptionist who was speaking.
Yeah.
They're not there, they don't, or video all the time for most jobs that digital reporters cover. So
Yeah, great tips. I saw Lisa agreeing with that on parts too. What would you say for transcriptionists, Lisa? What would you have them prioritize during the actual transcription process?
During that, I would say quality over quantity every single time, first and foremost. Don't rush. Don't try and crank those pages out. They need to be right. Also, do your research. If the reporter hasn't given you spellings on something, or you hear a term or a place that you're unfamiliar with, know how to do your research and find those answers online, because most of the time they're there. And then always audio proof your work. So many just will go through and reread through. You miss things. We all do. We're human. And you miss things the first time through that you will find and correct during the audio proof.
That's a good one too. Okay. And playing that into your time commitment, right? Very
Mhm.
good. All right. Well, let's kick this over. Well, let's do another poll really quick then, because I want to see what kind of complexity you guys at home have worked through when it comes to speaker designations. All right. So we'll throw this question up. What is the largest number of speaking participants you've had to annotate for or transcribe for during a single proceeding? How many have you guys had? So like 2 to 4, we got 5 to 9, 10 to 20, or maybe you've covered some really crazy meetings that had 30 plus. I did one like that, and they all wanted to know their names of all of them. Had to do a whole code all the way down. It was crazy. Oh, all right, let's see. What do you guys have? Let's see what it came through for. Okay, all right. 5 to 9. I would say that's pretty good. I mean, we're breaking past the super normal 2 to 4, right? And you guys have got some good complexity. I mean, even 9 speakers, that's a lot to try to keep up with and work through. And most of the time they probably happen on the fly. So we're going to talk through some of that too. Thank you so much for those answers, you guys. We've had a couple having the 30 plus too, so I know you feel me. And I gotta say, if there's anything to get the nerves going, right? It's seeing that you have a lot of speakers to manage. And it can get messy quickly if you do not set up for success, right? I mean, Jenna, are there tools, just even in general, that we can utilize to maintain focus and composure during like challenging and high pressure proceedings?
Absolutely. And even with that poll, I've seen that a lot of you have had a lot of speaker designations. And now, if I asked all of you if you've ever taken an extremely stressful job, I'm sure the overwhelming majority would say yes.
Oh,
So the
2
clinical
thumbs up.
psychologist is coming out in me, and I just want to talk a little bit about stress, and we're going to kind of rewire our brains this evening. It won't take very long. The word stress we know has a very negative connotation, as it's defined as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. And when we are in that state of stress, we have a physical and mental reaction. Our hearts begin to pound, our thoughts begin to race. We may even begin to sweat or shake. And typically, when we're experiencing these physical changes in our body, we interpret them as anxiety and that we're not coping very well with the pressure that we're under. But what if we changed that mindset? What if we viewed that beating heart as preparing us for action? What if we viewed us breathing quicker as our body getting more oxygen to our brain and our fingers for typing so that we can focus on the task at hand? When we change our perception of stress and we view it as this opportunity to do our best rather than a threat that get me the heck out of here, we approach the situation with more courage and confidence and we become focused. And I know, Jenna, that sounds so easy, but how the heck do I change something I viewed as toxic for 30 to 50 years of my life? And the first tool is something that we're already doing right now. We're breathing. And in order to consciously reframe that reaction of, oh no, I can't handle the pressure, by taking slow, deep breaths, we begin taking control of our body. When we are able to slow down and breathe, we reframe our mind and our body's reaction to rising to the challenge because trust yourself, trust your training. And in this, we're learning to be prepared and to plan ahead for those pitfalls that, oh, I walk in and I see 7 more extra pairs of eyes staring at me, and we greet them and we go on with our job.
Oh, love that. Go ahead,
Can
Mary.
I ask or add to? So I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. So, you know, reading all the books, doing all the things they can do to manage to help them self-regulate. And one of the things is belly breaths. And through this research, I realized when I take a deep breath, I would like inhale with my chest, or like my chest would rise. But really, it's like you to get a really deep breath, it's your belly that would help, and it helps the kids and you self-regulate. I actually use it all the time now, ever since I've been teaching it for my kids. So
So good. I was using it while you guys were talking. I love it. This is great. All right. Well, then putting on the DR hat, Jenna, when you're actually in the middle of it now, how do you set up when you have actually the registrant that submitted this question? The technical term she used was a billion speakers, which we know a bazillion is what it feels like sometimes. How do you set up for that in your software and get everything ready? And we'll do 2 different scenarios. One will be like when you might be expecting it. How do you set up?
When I'm expecting it, I use as many letters as I can, but mostly I use visual cues. So if there are a ton of speakers that need IDs, I use the visual cues. So say I already have my attorney speakers locked in, and we have extra witnesses, plaintiff, defendant, extra people in the room, whether it's a depo. I look for visual markers. Maybe I'll label him M for mustache if it's a man who has a mustache. Because later on, I can go back and I can rename those speakers, whether that's with my search and replace function that I use, or however you search and replace those speaker IDs at the end. But what we can't do is go back in time and make sure that our speaker IDs are correct in real time. As a
Yeah.
reporter, our speaker IDs are the most important thing, especially when there are 6 male attorneys. They all have Boston accents, and we know that transcriber is going to have a really tough time making out who each speaker is. This is why we must plan ahead for more speakers so that we can document them clearly and concisely.
That's a good one. I used to do that too for remote, like, because you can even like on some platforms drag them around. So I'd put them like where I know they are or whatever, or you can number them and different things like that too, right? Depending on where they are. Love that. That's a good tip. Utilize our tools we can in the middle of the battle. What about like if it happens on the fly? So obviously I'm thinking a part of your answer definitely would be, of course, tapping into your thinking and stress and your breathing, right? So you calm down first.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Know that you already have the tools necessary. You have not only your internal tools, keep your pad next to you that you can write stuff down, use those visual cues, and keep monitoring those speaker IDs. Like I said, you can go back and search and replace the actual names later, but in real time, make sure you're documenting the right one.
Yeah. And Jessica, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you've noticed, you've covered plenty too, that don't you find that if you're open and honest and talking and like, okay, everybody, just give me a moment. I need to kind of get everybody organized here, get everything set up. I mean, have you ever had anybody give you issues if you're trying to tell them you need a minute for something? like
No,
that?
I think it goes back to what Jenna was saying about confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, if you own it and you come across confident but also friendly, I mean, pretty much you can get a lot of things accomplished. So I've rarely had an issue where, you know, what I needed didn't get accomplished. So back to what she's saying, I think personally it's about confidence. I've addressed attorneys with questions and just asked what I needed. And it's all in about your approach and how you handle that situation, not being like, you know, shy or meek. It's you own it. Have confidence in what you're doing and come across as poised and you know what you're doing. At the end of the day, we are court reporters. We have this job in this position for a reason. So we have to own it.
I like that. We've earned it, right? You guys earned it. You did
Own
your
it.
training. Yeah, own it. I like it. All right, so let's get into some of the technical tools, okay, that we use during proceedings a little bit. Lisa, on the transcription side again, what are some of your favorite tools and ways to clean up audio if you need to?
Hopefully we don't, but we often do.
Happens.
My first tip to a transcriber would be check your audio player. Some of the players do have features that will run filters to reduce background noise, that type of a thing. And obviously, hopefully everyone's using multi-track and multi-channel so that you can isolate channels to hear things a little better if they're all speaking at once. I do know some people use a booster called FX Sound. It's like a sound mixer and equalizer for your computer that you can make adjustments so that you can hear, because we all have different hearing strengths too and different ranges, so you can adjust there. And then a cleanup tool that there are plenty of YouTube videos about is Audacity, that you can go in there and, you know, get rid of that air conditioner that's in the background making the hum and that sort of thing.
All right, perfect. And Merritt, this is coming right in. I know someone's looking for it. What about on the remote, like on the remote side, is there a best way to deal with like actual audio distortions? We covered some, but do you have some other ideas?
As far as audio issues, maybe not distortion, I was wanting to add about if somebody is moving away from their microphone and reminding them to stay close to it, or if they're mumbling, it's even more important that they're not mumbling on a remote job. Or if they have a heavy accent, it's just because it's just very important to interrupt, but that's the truth even on a in-person job if they're mumbling or have an accent that you don't understand, I should say.
Okay. Good. Thank you. I just saw a question too. I just wanted to see, maybe you could type out more of a clarification. Holly, Rydell Kelly, I see your question is, what about jury voir dire? Can you type just a little bit more? You probably typed it right when we were talking about it and it made sense, but I'm not sure what to tie that with. If you want to do that, we'll try to cover that for you. Maybe you're talking about for mics or something like that. But then moving on, okay, Lisa, other tools. So not so much necessarily on the audio side. Do you have other tools or software that have been particularly helpful in your work as a transcriptionist?
Well, we tend to prepare, I know many people use other platforms, but we prepare our transcripts in Word, which is pretty frequent and usual. And I know I've spoken to Merritt about this. She was pretty intrigued. There is an add-on to Word called Perfect It. I believe it's housed in London, but it's one of those subscription add-ons you pay once a year. You get to use it all year. And it is very helpful to put the final polish on a transcript. It checks for consistencies and inconsistencies. You hyphenated this word here, but you didn't there. Which would you like to do? It'll show you where you have them both. Sometimes it's proper, sometimes it's correct. Okay, you capitalized the word state 35 times and you didn't capitalize it 3 times. Why is that? Well, it's because, you know, you're talking about the state would like to call its first witness versus would you please state your name for the record? Obvious differences, but it will help you catch all of that and put the final polish and shine on the transcript with making everything consistent.
And
Okay,
I remember you mentioned that it's helpful when you're using ASR for your transcription because it catches double words, where ASR really gets this wrong often, where it's like here, and those types of.
Yeah, it will do that. And so will the actual tools in Word. Oftentimes the grammar corrector will, and perfect it. You can also somehow, you can kind of tweak it and adjust it, and specialize it for your needs. We haven't done that. We use it pretty much out of the box, but it's got a couple of different, like dictionaries in it that it can check for things. If you were doing, Canadian speech or UK English, where things are spelled a little differently, it does have dictionaries for that as well. But yeah, hopefully it helps with the ASR perfecting a little bit as well.
That's awesome. I mean, I could see even just after using that a few times, it probably kind of lets you know some of your own habits and makes you more aware of maybe some things you're doing, could save you time and make you extra dough in the future, right? With efficiency.
And it helps with quality. It helps to make a consistent quality of your product. And it even
Yeah.
will at the end ask you things like, it gives you other option tasks where you can remove all the spaces at the end of your paragraphs. Sometimes you'll have period space, then your return, it'll remove those. It will accept all of your changes if you've done editing changes for you. And it will also remove comment boxes if you wish to remove them before finalizing.
Okay, great. What about macros too? I know you had some cool things, and we had a couple people ask, some registrants ask if we could talk a little bit about macros as a tool as well.
Macros are wonderful, especially in Word. There are also text expansion type of platforms that will allow you to make macros as well, so that you can use them in other products. But we use them in Word quite a bit. My favorite way to use them is to set them up with your speaker IDs, and you can tell Word to attach that macro to a combination of keys so that you can set up hotkeys. So when I hit Alt C, I'm getting the whole speaker ID for the court, Alt S for the state, Alt W, the witness. So if you set them up ahead of time and you're sure that your spellings are right, all your speaker IDs should be properly spelled. You shouldn't have to worry throughout the transcript. And we also use them for proofing. If you need things like a non-breaking space between Mr. and Smith, so that you don't leave Mr. dangling up here on this line and Smith down here on the next line, I have set up a macro that will make all those corrections for me before I even start to proof my file.
That was one of my favorite ones that you had. That was so cool. Like, I never thought of using one that way.
Yeah, you
So
can make,
awesome.
I know of companies, I've heard of companies that make actual massive proofing macros. You basically make a list of everything that you are normally correcting, like remove the comma after so, or glue the things together, or change the digit 1 to ONE. You can put all of that in a macro and it'll do it all for you.
That's awesome. Hey, and with ChatGPT, you could throw something out there and ask ChatGPT how to write a macro for it, right? I mean,
Oh, I'm sure,
sure you'll be right there.
and I guarantee there
Yeah.
are YouTube videos, because there's YouTube videos for everything.
Right? One way or another.
For those of you who aren't familiar with macros, it includes the formatting. So when Lisa says like her speaker IDs, she's talking, she's recording the action of enter, the tabbing over, it includes the actual, like the court, it includes the colon, the spaces after the colon.
If I hit Alt C, it goes tab, the court, colon, space. So I hit Alt C and start typing whatever he's saying. It's very helpful.
Can be for parentheticals, like all the blurbs.
Yeah, my partner Eileen even has a macro for headers. Like her macro, I haven't done it, but it inserts the section break, it unselects the link to previous option in Word, and it puts her cursor right where she needs it in the header to start putting in whatever she needs to do.
So many tools to help us, right? And it's great. You talk to more people, you can find out more things, get more ideas, get more creative. Let's talk just for a second too about, we deal with a lot of confidential and secure data. So Jessica, perhaps maybe even tapping more into your experience, working on the agency side, how did you ensure like confidentiality and data security, when you're working with all this sensitive information and legal documents?
So I can speak right now, currently as a state digital, when we're covering a proceeding, sometimes the judge does say, need this audio or, you know, portion. So whenever we hear those words coming from the judge, we have to take action and specific guidelines of what to write in that annotation, because basically that audio or that proceeding is not able to be released without a court order. So automatically our ears have to be listening to that, making sure we're writing the specifics, because we have to write it from the beginning of that proceeding to the end and make sure that none of that audio proceeding is released. And that's very sensitive information. And also working with juvenile proceedings as well, which, you know, you're handling very sensitive information. Even with the requests of transcripts for juvenile cases, there's specific steps and protocols for that. I mean, because we're handling transcript proceedings that may handle termination of parental rights, a lot of sensitive information. So there's a lot of specific protocols that need to take place when handling that information. So always listening out for anything that's that specific so that we can annotate it correctly or take the proper protocols.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You know, when we sometimes have some of these more complex cases, we have so many exhibits to take care of, and it absolutely can be something that gets out of control quickly if we're not on top of it, like some of the tips that Jenna was even sharing. Merritt, like what would you advise is the best way to keep track of exhibits during a proceeding?
I like what Jenna mentioned about the paper. That's how I used to do it. But then I'm familiar with some softwares that actually have the capability of essentially when you're annotating and you put in there like exhibit, you know, you've done some type of hotkey to basically say you're doing an exhibit's being entered, marked. The hotkey will allow you to put in the identification and the description in the annotations, but it also will pull it up as an index too. Whenever somebody says, what was exhibit 2 5 hours in, you can pull up this index and quickly look at it more. So it's a more electronic version of the notepad concept.
Yeah.
So I love that.
That's nice because like I think you were saying before too, I mean, sometimes an attorney will ask you, you know, what was the last exhibit I said or that was entered or anything like that. And, you know, there's cases where you have multiple parties doing exhibits and it's not always chronological the way things come through. So that's definitely a nice tip. And I've actually, like in my old days, used macros in Excel to help me keep track of that too. So you guys could get creative and throw stuff out there for that too.
I want to add also, because now I'm remembering, and it was always a protocol that I used to take back to the steno pad or the pad, is once the proceeding was wrapped up, is basically going over the exhibits. Counsel, before we disconnect, if it's remote or before you leave, I'm going to run through the exhibits one more time and just make sure before that record is complete, to get everything on the record, exhibit number 1, exhibit number 2, and just do a complete run through. And if there's any discrepancy, then let's go and address that because we're still on the record. So
yeah, that's a great tip too. So here's a question that we had from one of our registrants, and Lisa, I'm gonna give this one to you. They said, what do you do when a rough transcript is so bad that it takes hours to complete? And how do you ask for compensation?
Well, what do? We have to do it. We have to take the bad with the good. And sadly, we do court proceedings. All the page rates are set by statute. We cannot ask for more. I don't know how someone would handle that with a deposition in that part of the industry, but with the courts, somebody's got to do it, and it's usually us.
Yeah.
And you get what you get, but you conversely also get ones that are super easy, and you can keep up with slow speakers, so you can type at the same speed that they're speaking. So
Yeah.
it evens out in the end.
That's a fair answer, definitely. All right, so we're going to move a little bit further ahead now. We're going to have a little bit of the special focus back in on the mental health aspects and trying to give you guys some tools to really arm yourselves that can benefit you in all these different situations. Hard to have answers for every single thing, but it arms you with ways to go through it. So the first one we're going to talk about is now, what are some coping strategies for decompressing after a stressful or sad, tough proceeding like what we were talking about? Jenna, what do you have for us?
Absolutely. And this is something that's so important. So I'm not going to get too in depth with some definitions, but in order to kind of give you those examples, we need to set a foundation. So I understand that our role in the courtroom or in depositions is to be stoic, and it takes a very strong individual to actively listen to some pretty tough subject matter without reacting. And in order to be prepared for hearing those subjects without reacting, it's important to learn about and to practice what is known as mental toughness. Mental toughness involves regulating our emotions, managing our thoughts, and behaving in a professional manner, regardless of the circumstances, no matter what's going on. By learning what mental toughness is this evening, this can be your first step on your path to a more positive well-being in the workforce. Self-awareness is this first key to mental toughness. We can't know what we don't know. When we take the time to learn how difficult subjects or topics affect us, we are taking the first step to control our reactions, and in turn, we take back control of our emotions. When we know how something affects us, we can create a plan to use when we experience these things. And just like we prepare our hardware and software for depositions and hearings, we must prepare our minds for something we may hear or experience. When we are mentally prepared for these experiences, we become more confident, we can use appropriate coping skills, and we have the ability to stay focused and attentive regardless of the content. So the next key piece is developing appropriate coping skills that can help you focus during a proceeding, but also to calm down afterwards. And these coping skills can be whatever brings you peace and comfort. Maybe you enjoy reading, maybe you enjoy taking walks in nature or exercising. Regardless, it's so important to choose something that works for you. There are going to be differences in the coping skills that we can use during a proceeding and coping skills that we can use after. We can't necessarily relax in a warm bath when the judge is issuing a ruling, right? So instead, when things are feeling a bit out of control internally, we need to turn that attention externally. Use our five senses to ground us. This is called grounding. What is something that you see? What is something that you feel? What is something that you hear? What are ways that we can bring ourselves into the present moment to focus on what's in front of us?
Mm.
Um, by grounding ourselves back to the present, we regain our focus, we calm our nerves, we breathe, and we cope with the pressure we may be experiencing in a healthy way. And I could go on and on about being healthy, speaking of basic self-care, getting enough sleep, making sure you're taking your breaks and eating something, getting
Mm.
enough sleep. And after we hear some pretty heavy things, um, moving on can be accomplished by working through these feelings with a trusted social support system. Maybe you have really trusted cohorts and coworkers that you feel comfortable talking to about. Um, and, you know, it's okay to feel, it's okay to be sad after you hear sad things. It's important that we're preparing ourselves before a case and taking care of ourselves after. And if you realize, hey, some of this stuff is pretty heavy, it's gotten to me, I can't shake it, there's no shame in the counseling game. I'm a firm believer that everybody should go to counseling, not just to talk about the bad things, but to celebrate the good as well. And Lisa even said it too. We take the good with the bad with the good. And that's what I wish to leave you with this evening is look for the good. There is
Mm.
always good. Our field needs strong people like you. And we may be the ghosts of the courtroom, but we are still humans on the inside.
Oh, I love that. And look for the good is important too, because you're a part of the justice system that is bringing justice to bad situations and hard times and whatnot. So, man, you gave some really helpful tips. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask another one too. Really, at first I was thinking of the transcriptionist, and by the way, you're getting lots of love and appreciation for that on Jenna. So thank you for that. Um, I was thinking for the transcriptionist, but honestly, it could be for anybody working from home, maybe at the office too, and you have a lot going on. But what are some tools that we can employ to help stay focused on the task at hand and not get distracted?
And honestly, it may seem very simple, but having your own private setting is so important.
Mm.
Having a place specifically for work can help you mitigate those distractions. Because as we know, I know Merritt has a 2 and 4-year-old. I have a 5 and 7-year-old. It's hard to keep those kiddos, our pets, even our spouses at bay when we're set up in the middle of a living area. Because, especially with this background, sometimes I just see eyes and a nose, and I'm like, oh my, where did you come from? So, and it's also very important, once again, the self-care. We can value hard work and we can also value rest. Take your breaks. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. And just
Yeah.
because we work from home doesn't mean we don't work hard. Allow yourself to take those breaks because stepping away, especially when you're nose deep in a transcript, we start to make these little errors that we have to come back and fix later on. It's by taking a break, stepping away, that actually increases your productivity and helps you refocus.
So true. I've seen so many studies on that too of you think you're doing so much and making up so much work by cramming it all in, but actually you're more productive if you give yourself the rest and everything exactly like what you're talking about. I don't know how we've already gotten this far. It's 8:55 already, you guys. So I want to make sure to hop over and we'll get some of the questions out of the chat that we can. So I'm going to try to throw some at us and we'll see what we can get through to answer for everybody. One that I think is pretty easy. I'm going to try to answer, and Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong. But one question we had is Perfected similar to Grammarly? I'm saying no, just from what I know of Grammarly, because I use it. Grammarly has some great tools to help us with doing things, but I have not seen it have anywhere near the complexity of what you're talking about as far as like comparing two different documents and kind of like a style.
Well, Perfected doesn't compare the documents, but it will look through it has its own dictionary, and it will look through your document and internally compare. You capped here, you didn't cap there. It's for consistency. It also has a dictionary for, I believe it's the US legal law dictionary. So it will keep an eye on your terms and that type of a thing too. I don't use Grammarly often, so I'm going to say that it's a bit different than Grammarly.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far and like put Merritt on the spot too much either. I don't know how much you've seen or used Grammarly, but I have heard people say the punctuation and things it does is not necessarily along in accordance with the legal transcription world and things like that. So I would maybe kind of look into that before you rely too heavily on Grammarly if you're talking about transcript work and whatnot. Just tidbits I've heard. Okay, I'm going to get back to Holly's question. She kind of clarified for us. So she said she was referring to multiple speakers, and when attorneys try to stumble over names instead of referring to numbers or whatever, there can also be up to 100 people in the room. So she was talking about kind of like voir dire and stuff like that. Is there anyone comfortable on kind of talking about how to best kind of, I guess, capture the audio or also do your designations for something like that? Any tips?
I would say to have a bunch of speaker IDs created before you even start Woodire. As many as you can get in there, so they're already set up, but you can set them up on the fly if there's more than you anticipated. And just sticking to the numbers as best as possible. I know it's tough. And if you do have to interrupt because they didn't say the number, then do. Vodire is not the most fun thing, but yeah, the speaker IDs is absolutely important. I don't know if I actually was helpful. I'm sorry, Holly.
And
I think
also,
that was
I
helpful.
would just to add that seating chart that you get beforehand is such a great tool because really that's your map as far as the speakers, and you can make your little notes and just refer to, your speaker designation, juror 1, 2, 3, or whatever the case. But I would say that map was like the guide of just knowing exactly like which juror was what and doing your own notes on that piece of paper so that you can get those IDs.
And back to what Jenna said, if they have a mustache, maybe even you put number 1 mustache and those types of things, so that maybe if the speaker gets it wrong,
Right.
or doesn't say the number, you can, oh, it was the guy with the mustache. Oh, that's number 2. Okay.
Awesome. Very good. I got to say too, shout out to Miss Elizabeth Niddle. Thank you for answering someone's question in the chat. That's awesome. That's what community is about, right? Thank you so much for that. That's great. You guys support each other. Let's see. Let me know if you see one, Merritt, too, before I see one. We got maybe one more minute. We can try to answer something. I don't see it. You guys are are knocking it out tonight. We don't really have quite as many. We could try this one in a short answer. Someone says they're currently a CDR. How do I become a transcriber? Who wants
That's
to
a-
take that one?
I might let Jessica or Jenna, did you just recently start transcribing? Remind me.
I did, yes. And honestly, it was my company asked me if I'd be interested in learning it. And of course, I like to gain as much skill as I possibly can. And honestly, seeing the layout of the transcript helped me learn the importance of, as you said, Merritt, those proper nouns, getting the spellings, doing the research, that my job is not done when I turn it in or whenever the audio's off, when we're off the record. It has made me a better reporter because now I know the layout of the transcript. I know what the transcriber is expecting of me as a reporter. And honestly, I just leaped at that opportunity. I can't give more information about like a freelancing or anything else, but Jessica or Lisa, do you know more of those opportunities?
I would say as far as in-house for the courthouse, going back to what you're saying, Jenna, also is just as far as the layout of that trend. There's so many different type of criminal court proceedings and different ways to handle. So anyways, I was just going to add to that. For me, it's just being completely humble because I work with some experienced transcriptionists, and that's really the way that I learn. I ask questions, and even if I can't assume I know, because at the end of the day, it's such a learning day to day. So case by case, and every day might be different. So it's not 1 + 1 = 2. And I've set a goal for myself in 1 year to hopefully take the test. So that is a personal goal I'm putting out in there.
You got this. We know it. All right, guys, forgive me. I'm going to squeeze in one more question. Okay, just have to. It's a question from Tabitha. It says, first of all, great panel and information, everybody. Thank you. And it says, Jessica, she says, sorry, Jessica, I'm a trained stenographer too, and I have a difficult time over annotating because I'm hardwired to get every word. How long did it take you to break this habit?
So I am very thankful for a prior boss that I used to have at US Legal that would say, grab the meat and potatoes. And that is something that I literally had to day by day say, okay, it's key highlights. You're not annotating everything. It's still a daily struggle because your fingers want to move so fast and you want to annotate. So I will say daily, I have to literally tell myself, key highlights, meat and potatoes. You don't need to annotate everything. It's been a struggle, but I'm getting there and it's getting much better. When I first started, I wanted to annotate everything, and you just can't do that, especially when managing so many courtrooms.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys so much for everything. You have been amazing. And thank you to our audience. You guys have been amazing too. All the reactions are very inspiring and help move everything along. Know you guys are appreciating it. Thank you for that. We are going to have our BlueLedge after hours. So if you guys want to stay for that, stay just another 5-10 minutes. We'll have some fun. If not, you guys, excuse me, my throat, certainly have been here long enough to get your CEU and have credits for that. So you can log off whenever. And again, we'll send you the survey tomorrow. That will give you the next step towards getting your CEU credit for AAERT. All right. So thank you, everybody. If for those of you that have to log off tonight, have a good night. And thank you.
You.
All right. So for those of you that are still here and hanging out, we're going to do this. I'm so sorry. And I hope that's not loud in your ear. We're going to do this in the Q&A chat. Okay. So maybe can we take just a second? We'll clear out everything that's in there. She's already on it. It's awesome. Okay. So we're going to do the first one is a kind of warm up for you guys. This isn't going to be the one for the $25 gift card, but we'll throw it out there. We're going to say, in 5 words or less, what is your suggested pre-job tip? An example could be pee before, caffeine up. Anything you want. So you guys go ahead and throw it out there. 5 words or less. What's your suggested pre-job tip? Panelists, you can put one if you want to. You just can't win when we get to the next one. Oh, grab food and drink. I'm on you with that. Be on time. I know Merritt loves that one. You guys feel free to. What do you see? Stretch. That's a good one too. Everything checked ahead. Good one, Christine. That preparation always wins out. Make your bed, clear space. Make sure you pack it all. I gotta know what you mean, Crystal. Make sure you pack it all. Or do you guys know?
Your equipment, I'm assuming, is that?
Oh, goodness. Definitely make sure you pack all your equipment. Yes. Like Mary said too, make sure you got extras of everything. That's a good
I used
one.
to keep I used to have 2 charging cables for my laptop, one that stayed at my desk and then one that stayed in my bag to travel with me so that I would get, because that would be like the thing that you'd forget.
I used to pack do a checklist the night before. No, everything was in my suitcase. And then the day of, I would pull out of my driveway and then have to get out of the car and make sure I did that check again. It was like an
Yeah.
OCD
Yeah.
paranoia.
Yeah, you don't want to be there without it.
Oh my
That's
God.
not. I love this one too, because I think almost all of us can, well, not all of us, but a lot of us can relate for remote. They'll like let the dogs out before you start. Totally. Schedule your Amazon deliveries accordingly. All right, awesome. Okay, so how about the next one? You guys ready to go to the next one? It's probably too much to clear all these out, right? Can we clear this one out so we
Oh.
can see? Okay, we go. I'm telling you, Katie's awesome.
That's like,
Okay, so, all right, here's the last one. And this one we're gonna vote on, you guys, okay? So to vote on it, you guys already know how to do the upvote, so that's all you're gonna do. Okay, in 4 words or less, what is your favorite post-job decompression? So an example could be cuddle with my dog.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what do you guys got for that? Your favorite post-job decompression, 4 words or less.
I like this outside and walk. That's me.
You don't have food.
Fresh
Clear your head.
air.
Yeah, fresh
Oh,
air does
sunlight's
wonders.
very good. Yes, fresh air, sunlight.
Kelly, eat all the food.
Yeah.
Food is a great one, right?
Mhm.
Chocolate and a favorite drink. Yep, got you, Tori. Definitely a lot would go outside. All right, so it looks like we got a lot of answers now. The hard part is kind of scrolling through there. You guys start upvoting. Let's upvote some of your favorite ones that you think should win. It's a good one. They're all good,
Mhm.
but what's a favorite? Or maybe something you didn't think of and someone's got it out there. Nah, that's a good one too.
I love eat and be lazy. I'm sorry. That was
I didn't see that one.
funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. So far we got get some sunlight is in the lead after walk outside for some sunshine. Those are right hand in hand. We got a lot of people on board with you, Merritt. Get fresh air and walk. Man, they're all so close in there. It's hard to like do it with one, but okay, so we'll go with the straight one after another, definitely the going outside. All right. So do I have to be super picky I'll just do the one with the most votes, right? Get some sunlight. All right, so yay, Cassandra, on your winning. So we'll do that. We have your email from your registration, so we'll send you the gift card and you'll have that there. So great, good job. Okay, we're gonna do one more question just for fun. This was like super, super fun last time. So, all right, in 3 words or less, you guys, what is the craziest experience you've had during a proceeding? So an example, witness, bathroom, hot mic.
Oh my gosh.
What else we got?
Oh my God, man turtle costume.
Oh my goodness,
Oh
Kat,
my
are you
gosh, I want to
serious?
know more.
Me too.
Awesome.
Witness fell
Oh
asleep.
my gosh. There's definitely some interesting ones. What?
Let's say all the way.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Witness
man.
removed leg.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, witness what? What was it?
Removed leg.
Oh, wow. Oh, an interpreter farted. Yikes.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
goodness. Poop flung judge.
That's
Don't even tell me you
most-
saw someone fling.
Oh my
What?
God. I want to know more.
Right?
Cliffhanger
Oh,
here.
oh my
I'm so
gosh.
funny.
They are. Okay. Oh, someone was called a
Cat
bit a
knocked
bee.
infant. Oh, but that's a lot of words. Cat knocked infant off of bed. Oh my gosh, I would have a heart.
Oh no. Witness public bathroom. Man, it's crazy what we see, right? There's some crazy, crazy things that we
Book in
see.
the making.
Some good comic relief, I guess, at the end. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for participating. It was lots of fun. We appreciated it.
I
Hope you
love
guys
those
all had a good
questions.
time.
Thanks
What's
so
that? Go ahead.
I love reading all these. These are so
I
good.
know. This
Thank you,
is
everyone.
I know. Oh, client fired police. Wonder how do you fire the police?
Yeah, a lot of these have me wondering. That's why I'm just like loving it. So thank
Yeah.
you
It's
everyone for
almost like the three
sharing.
words makes it mysterious, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Ernie's snoring.
Oh my gosh.
At least there were no cats, like that that early zoomed
Oh
up
my gosh.
where the attorney was a cat. Sorry,
Oh,
sir,
yeah.
My
I'm not
favorite.
a cat.
I laughed at that so many times. That was so hilarious because it was so true. Like it was like he really had no clue. Your Honor, I promise. I don't mean this.
Know how to turn it off.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the best. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, good night, you guys. Thank you so much. Please join us. Next time we'll have the series 3 of this. You can register for it now. We'll also be sending stuff out. Much love to you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye, everyone.